Speaking of justice, we're going to talk about four suspects that have been charged in a sex trafficking operation out of Hennepin County. Prosecutors have filed criminal charges against 4 individuals, including a former federal prosecutor, in connection with an alleged sex trafficking ring operating across the Twin Cities metro area. The defendants include 57-year-old Frank Reeves, former Anoka County Assistant Attorney Andrea Sampson, and 2 associates. Each faces 13 felony counts of promoting prostitution and receiving profits from prostitution following a multi-year investigation by local and state law enforcement. According to court filings, the ring operated across several suburbs including Minneapolis, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, and St. Louis Park, recruiting women and advertising commercial sex through an online platform owned by the group. Investigators allege Sampson used her background as an attorney to establish shell companies to launder profits, while other co-defendants managed online postings and logistics. Authorities have identified 13 victims connected to the network and expect additional victims may come forward. But don't expect them to get any more people to prosecute. This is the end, by the way. Once they find, like, I know that this might be a whole statewide campaign. These people might be connected to greater systems of sex trafficking. Don't expect them to look into this any further. The moment that they find 4 people to blame it on, to pin it on, and then whatnot, there's going to be more talk of a couple more victims. And if the victims mention the same guy who's still free like 5 times, maybe he'll get a visit to his house. But otherwise, don't expect to see any more prosecution. Don't expect to see any more people in jail from this, despite the fact that these people were definitely working with associates. There's not going to be any more prosecution, on that front. They're not going to be expanding the case, especially if it touches more people than a former government official. If this involves current day people in any way, shape, or form, expect this to get buried under the jail alongside these folks. Trust me, they don't want them talking. They don't want anybody who might be wanting to look into this case any further. They don't want them looking into it any further. So they're going to lock all those people underneath the jail, seal them in there with concrete. They're going to be the cask of Amontillado. They will rot behind there. Their bones will be found by people maybe years and millennia later, but who knows? You know what I mean? Them and the case, they will all disappear after many sex trafficking schemes will continue to go along. Unencumbered, by the way. Duluth is going to run women out by the boatloads down rivers. It's going to continue to be a scheme. It's going to continue to be just this very fun thing where you can order women basically out of a Sears catalog, but only the rich and famous have copies, and only like the most solid elites, only the most solid people in positions. You don't even have to be that solid of an elite. Do you got a 7-6-figure fortune? You're working your way up the ladder, you know what I mean? You're probably going to a couple rituals. You probably have your own altar. You probably have your own ceremonial dagger that's got, touched the sternum of a couple children. You're working your way up. You're what's the Jeffersons? We're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. I think that's it. It's pretty good. It's a good show. You know what I mean? The black people, they get rich and whatever. Let's talk about this.
These 4 people are facing more than a dozen charges, each accused of operating a sprawling sex trafficking scheme in Hennepin County. And one of them, Andrea Thompson, the far right of your screen there, used to work as an attorney in the Anoka County Attorney's Office. Thanks for joining us at 5 on air and streaming. I'm Rena Sargentopoulos.
And I'm Kevin Holmes. Prosecutors call this a complicated multi-year scheme designed to exploit 13 victims and then hide the money.
And there's a twist to the case. Our Lou Raguse leads us off tonight with all those details. Lou?
Rena and Kevin, besides using the victims for sex trafficking, according to a criminal complaint, these suspects also used them as fake autism services providers.
Of course.
And healthcare workers.
Of course, because Minnesota wouldn't be complete without a little bit of autism fraud.
They used them as fake autism services providers and home healthcare workers to steal taxpayer money.
Yes. 10 out of 10, like 5 out of 5, 4 out of 4. Roger Ebert, he said there's never been a better movie ever made in his life. You can play bingo at this point with every story out of Minnesota. Does it have immigrants? Does it have healthcare fraud? Does it have, people of indiscriminate color that we're going to get into arguments about as to whether or not, does it have anything to do with their race? Does it have anything to do with their culture? Maybe, I'm just going to say it. The Irish definitely had a culture issue the first couple of years that they were in the country. I love how Hunter Biden, he brought that up in the interview. He went ahead and was like, back when my guys were coming over, they said that we were dirty. They said that we were the ones committing the crime. So that's why we couldn't go into bars. And I'm like, well, yeah, were they wrong? Were they wrong for not letting you in? Yeah, you guys had a bit of an attitude problem.
The initial details were shocking enough. 3 women, including a former assistant Anoka County attorney, all allegedly dating the same man, Frank Reeves, all charged in a multi-year sex trafficking scheme in Minneapolis.
The level of sophistication and victimization for profit is disturbing.
But on top of the trafficking allegations, there are allegations of fraud. According to a criminal complaint, Reeves, the top trafficking defendant, owned this supposed home health care company, Riva Health, along with 30-year-old Salman Elmi. $2.5 million.
Salman Elmi. You guys want to take a guess? I mean, he does not look, I'm just going to be real with you. He does not look Scandinavian.
To the state for taxpayer Medicaid reimbursements. And who provided those supposed services? In some cases, the sex trafficking victims, at least in the paperwork investigators found. The complaint says one was labeled a mental health worker. Another, a provider for kids.
For kids.
At Riva Autism, which was owned by Reeves and Andrea Sampson, the former attorney. Those two also owned housing stabilization and assisted living centers run out of various locations, some of them the same locations the sex trafficking allegedly took place. All told, court papers say those companies billed Medicaid $4.54 million.
Wowie.
Sampson isn't the only one with an interesting background. Elmi is a celebrated entrepreneur who won an award from the Department of Human Services, which administers Medicaid, ironically, as an outstanding refugee.
Wow, an outstanding refugee. He certainly stands out for other reasons.
Medicaid, ironically, as an outstanding refugee.
I love it.
And according to Elmi's website, Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank.
Diversity is our strength.
Refugee. And according to Elmi's website, Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank invested $1 million in an app Elmi came up with. If the details in the court papers are any indication, more charges could be on the way.
This represents a culmination of a multi-year investigation into these defendants that is continuing to be active and ongoing to continue to uncover additional criminal activity potentially of the work that they've done.
Now, in court today, we learned that more sex trafficking victims are now coming forward. The judge set bail at $300,000 for 2 of the women and $500,000 for Reeves. The other female defendant will be in court tomorrow. And Elmi, the only one charged so far with fraud, is held on $100,000 bail. Rita?
Well, it sounds like perhaps more fraud charges might be coming for
Perhaps.
these other suspects. But did they find out about this because of the sex trafficking, and then they found out about the fraud, or was it the fraud that uncovered the sex trafficking?
Well, first, absolutely, there will be more sex trafficking charges because the complaint for Elmi almost talks about the other people more than they talk about him. His role very important according to the allegations as well. As for all this, how this came to light, the sex trafficking investigation was first. It started back in 2021. That was ongoing. Then early this year, the Medicaid fraud unit in the Attorney General's office started investigating Medicaid fraud after they were tipped off by an insurer. When they started looking into these locations, they found that they were owned by these people who were being investigated by the BCA for sex trafficking. So they kind of joined up and finished off this investigation together.
Well, how fun. I'm glad that there's some justice being served. It's long overdue, but you got to give Minnesotans credit. When they get to it, they'll get to it eventually. Folks,